Alright, on your screens now you can see Sharif Osman Hadi, first a student leader who slowly became the face of Islamist protests against the Sheikh Hasina regime. It is an attack by gunmen on him which has triggered violence, arson and total anarchy in Bangladesh. Hello and welcome to another episode of Deep Dive brought to you by NewsX. My name is Vineet Malhotra. Sharif Osman Hadi was a spokesperson for the Inqilab Mancha, a political platform that emerged from the student protest movement of July 2024. The movement played a central role in forcing Sheikh Hasina to step down after weeks of unrest. Hadi became one of the most visible faces of the protests and was seen as a link between student groups and wider political mobilization. In recent months, he had begun preparing for formal politics and was expected to contest the upcoming general election scheduled for February. Hadi was widely described as a frontline figure during the movement, frequently mobilizing youth groups and students and articulating a political narrative of anti-establishment rhetoric with strong nationalist and anti-India positions. During the July uprising, Hadi helped organize protests and communicate demands of student groups calling for a political reform. Inqilab Mancha, the platform he represented, gained influence during this period and challenged the dominance of the Awami League. The group played a central role in campaigns demanding the dismantling of the Awami League, accusing it of authoritarianism and human rights violations. In May earlier this year, the interim government led by Nobel Peace Prize laureate Muhammad Yunus formally disbanded the Awami League, barring it from contesting the upcoming elections. The uprising eventually led to Sheikh Hasina fleeing the country and the information of an interim government led by Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus. Hadi was shot on 12th of December while campaigning in central Dhaka, and according to investigators, he was travelling in a battery-powered auto rickshaw in the Paltan area when a masked attacker on a motorcycle opened fire, hitting him in the head. On the 15th of December, Hadi was airlifted to Singapore for advanced medical treatment. He was admitted to a neurosurgical intensive care unit, but doctors said the bullet had caused severe damage to his brain. And after spending 6 days on life support, Hadi died on the 18th of December at a hospital in Singapore. Sharif Osman Hadi was not just a youth leader, he was one of the most vocal critics of what he perceived as Indian influence in Bangladeshi politics. As the convener of the radical platform Inqilab Mancha, Hadi frequently attacked any political group he believed was under New Delhi's sway, including the long-dominant Awami League and even rival parties like the BNP. He described the Awami League's ties with India as Indian hegemony and repeatedly called for members of the party to be constitutionally barred from future elections, portraying them as agents of foreign influence rather than domestic representatives. Hadi's rhetoric went beyond general criticism and into provocative symbolism. According to reports, just hours before he was shot, he shared on social media a map of a so-called Greater Bangladesh that incorporated parts of Indian territory, an inflammatory gesture that amplified nationalist sentiment and blurred the lines between political protest and territorial grievance. This act was widely circulated and used by supporters to frame him as a champion against Indian dominance, regardless of its fringe nature. In the wake of his shooting and subsequent death in the Singapore hospital, the narrative around Hadi quickly shifted from a criminal act against an individual to a political and even geopolitical crusade. Protesters nationwide raised anti-India slogans, directed anger at diplomatic missions, and chanted against perceived external interference in Bangladeshi affairs. In many parts of the demonstrations, blame was cast on India for Hadi's death itself, a direction that analysts say served to mobilize emotions and redirect domestic frustration outward, even though there is no credible evidence linking New Delhi to the attack. This transformation of Hadi's death into an anti-India campaign underscores how explosive political symbolism can be, especially when entwined with nationalist narratives and deep-seated regional sensitivities. Whether motivated by genuine grievance or strategic opportunities or opportunism, the result has been intensified and is into street pressure now. Strained diplomatic ties and a volatile environment has been created that goes beyond the original political context of his activism. News of Hadi's death spread rapidly across Bangladesh on Thursday night, setting off large-scale protests that quickly turned violent. Thousands of demonstrators poured into the streets of Dhaka, chanting slogans invoking Hadi's name and demanding immediate justice. Many vowed to continue protests until those responsible were arrested and punished. The demonstrations escalated into arson and vandalism in several parts of the capital. Buildings housing Bangladesh's two largest newspapers, the Bengali language Pratham Alo and the English language Daily Star, were attacked by mobs. The interim government declared a day of state mourning and said an investigation was underway. Interim leader Muhammad Yunus described Hadi's death as a major loss to Bangladesh's democratic process and urged people to remain calm. Hadi's killing comes at a sensitive time, just weeks before Bangladesh is due to hold national elections for the first time since 2024 uprising. His death has deepened political tensions and raised concerns about security and stability in the run-up to the polls. Ambassador Veena Sikri, former diplomat, joins us on the program to talk more about this. Ambassador Sikri, ma'am, always a pleasure having you. Well, first up, Bangladesh is on a boil. And it would be very, very correct to say, ma'am, that at present, there is no one governing the country of Bangladesh. How should India insulate itself from all this violence, this false narrative, and this anti-India rhetoric?
Look, first of all, I think you spoke about, somebody talking about foreign interference and so on. I think why not go back to the very staged and, according to Muhammad Yunus, meticulously designed regime change operation that took place in July, August last year and led to Sheikh Hasina having forced to flee her country and come to India. Wasn't that all about foreign interference? Aren't we seeing in the last 18 months, Pakistan, after a gap of 54 years, re-establishing themselves in Bangladesh to the pattern of the pre-1971 situation between West Pakistan and the then East Pakistan? I think that is the nature of foreign interference that has led to the situation today. And I think that another thing that you have given this large amount of, detailed biography, almost hagiographic in some terms, about Osman Hadi. What about the simple Hindu Dipu Chandra Das, who was in the most barbaric medieval fashion killed in Bangladesh the same yesterday? The same day that Osman Hadi was, died in Singapore, Dipu Chandra Das was beaten to death in Mymensingh near Dhaka. And then his body was put on a stick to burn, and then the body was taken off the stick and then put on the highway. Is this the action of a logical democratic country? And how can you talk about elections, so-called elections, when the biggest party in the country has been banned from the elections? Shouldn't you ask the question, why has it been banned? Why has the Awami League been banned from elections? Why has the Jatiya Party been banned from elections? And then you're calling it a democratic election? India has said repeatedly that elections must be free, fair, inclusive, and participatory in order to be credible. Who can accept an uncredible, incredible, non-participatory election in Bangladesh? I can give you the parallel example of Sri Lanka in 2022, when there was this great movement against Rajapaksa, and by the Gen Z, Rajapaksa's government was brought down, exiled, came back, and when the elections were held, his party was free to participate. There was as much anger and horror at the Rajapaksa government, nepotism and whatnot, all kinds, similar kinds of charges. But then when the elections took place, the party was allowed to participate. In democratic traditions, that is what had to be done. I think we have to focus on that. Our government has made this demand repeatedly for inclusive and participatory elections. Otherwise, the results will never be accepted by the people of Bangladesh. There will always be instability. There will always be insecurity because you're banning the largest party from taking part. I think that is what the focus should be. And in fact, this whole story of who did the removal of Sheikh Hasina, the Jamaat-e-Islami was there backed by Pakistan. And Pakistan's events in the last 18 months are there for all to see. The Jamaat-e-Islami is controlling the entire narrative in Bangladesh today. They have been attacking the media houses. They have been seeking control of the media houses. And do you know why they attacked the Pratham Alo, the people who have gone today, the media house? Because a few days ago, the Pratham Alo published a national opinion survey which said that 70% of the people of Bangladesh want the Awami League to take part in the elections. It doesn't mean those 70% will vote for the Awami League, no. But it means the people want the Awami League to take part. They want a democratic election. It is exactly the non-democratic nature of earlier elections that were being criticized by the Mohammad Yunus regime as a big criticism against Sheikh Hasina. But now they're doing exactly the same thing, and nobody is raising a voice about it. Without these kind of participatory elections, such incidents will continue because there's going to be so much violence in an election where you're debarring the largest single political party and the Jatiya Party. If you add the two, they have a very substantial amount of the vote bank. And it's well known that Jamaat-e-Islami thought that they would get all the votes now, that the Awami League and Sheikh Hasina have left. But seeing that their popularity hasn't gone up much at all.
All right.
And they still are in a very small region, so they want to do these kind of things by banning the Awami League. So I think the focus of discussion has to be on how to correct the situation. And India has, I would say, pointed out the single most important factor and very forcefully pointed it out, that we have to ensure that there are free, fair and inclusive elections, because that is what the people of Bangladesh want. You cannot wait and watch till the elections are over. That will be terrible. Because if you're asking for free, fair and inclusive elections, then we must ensure that they are free, fair and inclusive. That is what India has to do in order to insulate itself from what is going on in Bangladesh.
All right. Ma'am, appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much for your time and your perspective. We take a short break now. We'll be right back.